turning out in such large numbers to support all who have served our nation. I wanted to share briefly with you today about how much the service of every member who has sacrificed time and the efforts to defending our freedoms, the effect that it has had on our community in inspiring patriotism and service and education among every individual. During the summer of 2012, I was honored to represent the American Legion Post 318 at Girls Nation. That is a government education program hosted in Washington, D.C. And during our week-long time at the nation's capital, we visited Arlington Cemetery to tour the grounds and to watch the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. During our time, as we walked through the weaving pathway, all that you could see, all that was in sight, were those shiny white headstones. And those glistening tombstones, they seemed far too clean and far too innocent for the sacrifice that they represented. And following our time at Arlington Cemetery, it was far more than just a time to sightsee, to tour. It was a reminder of all of the service and the sacrifice that you and those who have gone before you have made for our freedoms and for the security of our nation. Today we remember their service, and we also realize that without their sacrifice, our country, and indeed this very community, would not be where it is today. The astounding truth is that every veteran, every troop who has sacrificed his life has a resounding impact on our community by inspiring within our future generations a greater sense of patriotism, an education of our nation's history, and a dedication to increased service. For the average American, the meaning of the word patriotism is easily lost in our busy schedules and our daily activities. It becomes just another descriptive word that we pull out of the dictionary on national holidays. But following our time at Arlington Cemetery, there was a noticeable shift among all of the students there, and viewing the simple acts of patriotism such as reciting the Pledge of Allegiance or singing the national anthem. Suddenly taking the time to put together a wreath of poppies to display by the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, it took on a greater meaning and significance. These acts and the viewpoint that we have of patriotism brought to life the words of Cynthia Ozick, who said that we often take for granted the very things that most deserve our gratitude. The humbling sacrifice made by hundreds of thousands of troops inspires among future generations a greater sense of patriotism and pride in our nation. And every day as veterans return home, they are carrying on the memory of those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our nation. Memorial Day is not only just a time to honor the sacrifice of many, it's also a time to educate our future generations about the cost of liberty, for our freedom is anything but free. In times past, the American people have faced a relentless attack on our freedoms and our liberties, and it is only because of the dedication of our troops that our freedoms have endured. And it's times like these when we must remember the words that are commonly said, which are that those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat the future. If my generation fails to recall the dedication that is necessary to protect our freedoms, we risk losing those rights and those liberties that you have dedicated your service and your lives to. The memories that are passed down by our family members, by our educators, and indeed by our local veterans are what allow my generation to know about the past service and to carry on the banner of service to the United States. But finally, in the last couple of days that we were at Girls Nation, we also took the time to visit the Walter Reed Memorial Hospital out in the DC area. And we met with wounded warriors who were returning home from service, and I think that has had the greatest impact on how I've returned home to the community and viewed things, because I saw that those young men and women who were returning home were not much older than I am. And it was an inspiration to do more and to seek more opportunities within my community to serve. After some of the students returned from Girls Nation, some of them started groups to volunteer with local veterans organizations. Others joined groups that were collecting items for veterans hospitals. And still others were working with military families to provide for their needs. And those joined with the efforts of the Legion, especially our post and all that they do for our community, are just a testament to how greatly every dedicated serviceman and woman has an inspiration for the American people to increase their service and to do more for our nation. The overused and underappreciated words "thank you" seem far too little to convey how deeply we appreciate and honor the sacrifice that every service member has made for our nation. We remember the commitment of our fallen soldiers today, and we are also eternally grateful for all that you have done and that they have done to protect the American people. Their lives laid down not only safeguard our freedoms, but they inspire patriotism. They inspire a greater sense of education about our nation, and they inspire service within our community. I always have to squeeze in a Ronald Reagan quote to one of my speeches, and the one that I chose for today was when he said, "I know in my heart that man is good, and that what is right will always eventually triumph, and there's purpose and worth to each and every life." And I hope that you realize today how greatly our community values the service that you have given and the service of every troop who is not here with us today. And to those who have served today and to the families who have lost loved ones, those simple words "thank you" embody all that you have done for our community.